right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. Today is Monday, September 9th, 2024. It is now 7:05 p.m. and we are having a select board meeting here at the Public Safety Complex in the training room. First on the agenda, we have 3 consent items. I will read them as we usually do. Number 1 is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on August 26, 2024. Number 2 is a request to place signs on the town common for the COA Health Fair. And number 3 is to correct the term for William Mulcahy of the Conservation Commission from his current term ending June 30th, 2028 to June 30th, 2027. So apparently we gave him an extra year. Are there any objections to any of the consent items?
No.
Any objections, Kirk?
No, ma'am.
Excellent. All right. So first up, new business. Scott Connor is here as the Veterans Agent to talk to us about the Town of Paxton's Purple Heart community identity. Come on up. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong person. I'm like, that's not
Okay.
what he looked
It's
like
okay.
before. But, you know, things change. Come on up.
Is this good here?
No, if you have a mic, you're fine
Oh,
there.
yeah, great,
Yep.
thank you. My name's Scott Connor. I'm your Veterans Agent here for the community. I was approached about 6 weeks ago by the members of the Post, leadership of the American Legion Post here in town, to move along the Purple Heart community for Paxton to be recognized as a Purple Heart community, which there's no special forms or anything like that, but we would like to put up the Purple Heart signage that you see in many other communities throughout the Commonwealth, and have them put up at 5 different points here in town where the main roads come in, and have a proclamation, which I gave you a copy of the proclamation that we recommend, and also what the Purple Heart sign would be. Preference would be for the 12 inches wide, 18 inches high. Just seems to look nicer and more streamlined, because it'll be, they do get attached to whatever the first sign is coming into town.
Okay.
And I have spoken with the highway department, and they're all on board on putting those up when they come in. We'll order 7 signs, 5 for the roads, an extra one for the highway department, and 1 for the post. All the expenses incurred with this will be taken care of by the American Legion Post. They will fully fund this program. They support this community very well, and this will be a nice thing. It shows other veterans in the community, and those veterans that are passing through the community. It shows them that, they may not be a Purple Heart recipient, but, lets them know that the veterans are thought of in the particular community. So we'd just like to move forward with that, with the blessing of the selectmen. Just, we're not going to send a bill. They're not going to send a bill. Everything's been taken care of, so, and we're going to, the target date is to have this done for Veterans Day.
Okay.
nice.
That's a perfectly fitting date.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments from the select board?
I think
Hearing,
it's commendable.
yeah. Okay, so we do have the proclamation. I'd like to read it, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It says, whereas the people of the town of Paxton have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for the men and women who selflessly served their country and their community in the armed forces, and whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women from Paxton who served in harm's way in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens, and whereas many of our citizens were awarded the Purple Heart for their sacrifice, having been wounded in action while engaged in combat, and whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration in present use and was initially created as the badge of military merit on August 7th, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington. The award was made of purple cloth shaped as a heart with the word merit sewn upon it, and whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Appreciation Day.
That's it.
Sorry, I'm struggling with the paperwork.
That's it.
We probably need another line in there somewhere
Yeah, the
for the,
copier must ate
what comes
that.
after the whereases.
Sure, it was supposed to print above where the names are.
Yep.
Okay.
But I assume it would say Paxton hereby designates itself as a
Yeah.
Purple Heart community. So,
Further resolves too, yes.
yep. Is there a motion from the select board?
Well, we're already designated as a Purple Heart community. We've done that before.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so.
Yeah, we have.
Okay,
But we haven't got the signs.
but we don't have the signs.
No.
So at this point, we just need a motion then to place the signage, right?
And we can sign this
If we're
again.
already,
I know we have signed this before, but we can
Yeah.
sign again.
we
Do you have a
could-
proclamation made up? Or,
Do we have do you know if we have a proclamation on file?
I'm pretty certain we do, yeah. But like I said, we can do it again. It's not a big deal. But,
Yeah.
but I know we are community, we're Purple Heart community.
I thought we had done,
Yeah.
I know when, it was around the same time that we put those parking spaces in,
That's
right?
what, yeah, that's what it came from.
So possibly we have it on file, but if not, we have it here. So why don't we do two things? Just in case it's not on record, why don't we designate
Yep.
ourselves so? And then after that, we can vote to sign the proclamation in the process, right? And then place the signage.
Okay.
Sound good? Is there a motion to designate the town of Paxton as a Purple Heart community, if not already so, and sign the proclamation?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Perfect.
Sorry, I'm having a little lag.
That's okay.
experience here.
That's all right. We'll be patient, Kirk. All right, any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Kirk, you know what, because we're doing a hybrid meeting, we probably should do it by roll call. So Kirk, how do you vote?
Aye.
I will vote aye,
Aye.
and Carol votes aye. Okay. And then can I get a second motion to place signage at the entry points to the town as Mr. Connor designated?
I'll make the motion that we place those signs.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Kirk,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and then I will vote aye as well. Okay, very good.
Perfect.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Adam, yeah, would you like to say something?
Well, if it helps, I believe it was about 5 or 6 years ago that they came in for, just to know how far back to look.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember doing it, but
I can see the folder what says.
just in case, yeah, right? The folder was purple, that's great.
No,
Oh.
I can see the writing saying Purple Heart.
Okay. Yeah, so it's probably there somewhere.
But it's okay. It's
But
okay.
just in case, we've got it covered, so, awesome. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your effort.
And thank you for your service.
And thank you for offering to pay for everything.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Okey dokey. Moving along. Number 2 is to formally refer the town's, zoning bylaw in their, bylaws in their entirety for review to the planning board. Did you each get a copy of the full, redlined zoning bylaws?
No, I didn't send them to everyone. I just sent them to you.
Just to me? Okay. So, this is the select board's opportunity to review, I would assume, in order to refer to planning?
Trying to think of how it's been done in the past. I know in other towns, usually it's just a referral and then it comes back to the select board before it goes on the town meeting warrant.
Okay,
So I don't think this is the one and only time. I think this is just so we've kind of already theoretically been doing this, but it hasn't formally been done yet, right? It hasn't formally gone to the planning board. It's just been a working group that's reviewed everything, and now it's at the point where in order to put it into the official direction of getting to a town meeting warrant, it has to be officially referred to the planning board. So usually you would refer something to the planning board, they would tackle it, make any changes they recommend, and then it comes back to the select board to place on the warrant.
go ahead, Neil.
Okay, Heather, I think we're 90% there. I think all we need at this point is to have the recommendation of the select board, to have it come to planning where we can start to review as a board, but we will also be holding or conducting informational sessions for the community.
Right.
And that's where we would get the greater, excuse me, the input of the citizenry as to yay, nay, and then at that point, once we conclude that process, we would bring it back to the board here for a warrant article to be created for the special town meeting in November.
Okay.
All right, I think we had this discussion last time we had this update. Excuse me, I want to make sure that, I think you need to allow the committee to do the process that we've undertaken. We've been working for about 16 months at this point, and it'll probably be 18 months by the time it's all done. And to have changes made by this board only, I think is not the correct procedure or the order of events to take place. I think it's better if you allow us to take it from you tonight and then hold the informational sessions with the residents, and then come back and again, you're welcome to attend any of the informational sessions. You can say, as a member of the Board of Selectmen or Select Board, this is my personal feeling, but I don't think we can reinvent the wheel at this point.
I don't think anybody's asking to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we know our role in the process and that we are fully undertaking our role in the process rather than just being a procedural cog in the wheel. So if it requires a formal referral from the select board to the planning board in order to move the process along, I need to know that the select board has fulfilled their role prior to doing that. Now, you just heard that 2 out of 3 of the selectmen haven't even reviewed the bylaws yet, so I'm not sure that, can't speak for them, but I'm not sure that they're gonna feel comfortable making that next step without knowing what they're referring.
I think this is more procedural. That's all. It just, it can't start the review process with the residents until we get it to come to the planning board. It's not that, I mean, we have the chair of zoning, we have the building commissioner, we've had the fire chief, we've had the DPW director.
Yep.
Everybody has given input, as well as there were some citizens that attended a few of the informational meetings we had about MBTA as it started,
Yep.
just to get the discussions talking or rolling rather than dropping the situation and saying, okay, we're forced into this. So we wanted some people to understand. And those are on the website for the town, so anybody that wants to see that. So this is more a matter-of-fact kind of thing. It's like a clerical kind of thing. Just get it done, we'll start the process, and then we'll come back. And as I said, the members of the board are welcome to attend the informational sessions and give input at that point. But I think we're going around and around on this, that the work is 90% done. And we just want to bring it home right now and get it done by November 18th. Am I correct, Heather? And I mean, that's kind of where we're at.
So, looking online, I can get you the formal reference to it. This is informal. I don't have the citation for what I need, but, so they generally outline the process, initiating the process. Select board may propose revisions to the zoning bylaws themselves or direct the planning board to review and suggest changes, public outreach and input, review and approval after the planning board drafts the revised zoning bylaws, so formally says this is what we have. The select board reviews the changes. They may provide recommendations or request adjustments before the bylaws are finalized, then submission. Usually the select board typically submits the proposed zoning bylaw revisions to town meeting for approval and then legal compliance. So you should have another stab at or an actual stab at the apple when they come back from the planning board.
Okay.
So, and that's what other towns generally do too. I mean, sometimes the select board says, okay, here's what we'd like to see changed, and then send it to the planning board, and sometimes they say, okay, hey, we need this new zoning bylaw, or we'd like you to fix this one. Take a look at it and send something back, and then you spend time in the select board reviewing it.
Yeah. Do we have time built into our timeline? Because I remember commenting when we looked at this before that it was pretty tight.
We should, let's see here, because once the planning board holds their final hearing, they've checked their last box, so everything is okay for the zoning bylaw piece, and then the select board can review. I'm just pulling up, hold on, let me go find my calendar.
I think we have 3 informational sessions scheduled between now and the 10th of November. Then it comes back. I don't want to be negative about this, but what I'm saying, I think if you get a copy of it, each of the members of the board, and you kind of look at them and send any comments to the planning board at this point, I mean, we will gladly entertain discussions on them, whether it's a response to you saying this is what we've done or whatever. I mean, we didn't take the undertaking lightly. We did hire a consultant. So, because again, with the exception of Heather, does the legal thing for the town, but I mean, between Roberta, myself, and, I mean, we're all volunteers, so, I mean, yes, I've been on the planning board for almost over 20 years, but I still don't know everything, and we need to have that professionalism that we got from Central Mass Regional Planning to kind of walk us through the pitfalls of what other communities have gone through. And the only reason I bring that up is I think the select board is better versed in matters dealing with the overall operation of the town, but I'm not sure any of you, again, I'm not trying to be specific, but have an understanding as to zoning and planning and what we do with site plan reviews and variance applications and things like that. And that's why we have 2 or 3 distinct boards or, councils to work through this. So I think if after tonight you each get a copy of the regulations as they've been redlined and things have been changed and moved around, and then any comments, just send them either on to Heather, because again, she's still on the steering committee, but once it goes to planning, we have to take the 5 members of planning, they have to now dive into this, and then we're gonna hold the informational sessions for the residents to come forward and see how they feel about it. The one thing I want to avoid that happened, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, is when the marijuana regulations came out. There was a lot of discussion at town meeting because nobody really knew what was going on because nobody attended any of those processes to get us to the point of being at town meeting.
Right.
So because this is a full-blown review of all zoning, rules and regs, it's important that we have the discussion and make changes to the proposal before we get to the special town meeting in November.
I agree, which is why I think that maybe the select board, it would be better if we had input earlier in the process, so that that amount could be weighed, talked about, that input could be talked about among the planning board, and potentially also with the consultant, right? Because, as you said, we have no idea what we're doing when it comes to zoning and planning. So, which I disagree with, by the way, in case that wasn't obvious. But, I think that there's a place for the select board to provide input into this. I think it's built with the idea what I just heard from Heather was that there was actually 2 places for the select board to have input. One is now, and the second one is after planning has a look at it. I personally would feel better referring it to the planning board after we know what we're referring, because as of right now, I've had a chance to take a look at it. I just got them on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to really delve into it. I looked at it briefly. I saw at least one thing that I think conflicts with state law that I would like to have.
What is
just,
it?
I'd like to have reviewed or taken a look at, or.
Which is,
So.
Tell me what it is, we'll make note of it, we'll follow up with Central Mass. I mean, if it's, what is,
Yeah, I think we can probably have an offline conversation about that, Neil. I
Okay.
don't want to get into the details.
if it's.
Now, because that's not what we're here for.
right.
But I do think that there are probably some things that we need to take a further look at. And I just want to make sure that before the select board takes a vote, that they know what they're voting on. That's all.
Okay, I guess my only concern with that is if you have a concern about some legal, is it the wording or whatever? I mean, we used a professional consultant to get us to where we are. So, I mean, I think they've gone through a lot of the legalese and experience that they've had as an organization to provide that service to the town of Paxton. we are really beholden to them, because again, none of us are lawyers or whatever. And the
Right.
final thing that happens is, if the issue that you have is of major concern, after the town votes to accept, it has to go to the Attorney General's office for a complete review. And if they find something wrong, then it would come back to us for, an amendment or a modification.
Heather, does town council get involved
They
in
do.
reviewing this before it goes off? I would think
Yes.
so, just like
Yep,
any other
we-
bylaw.
Yep, we will send it to them. I'm just waiting for the last changes that Jane may make before I
Yep.
send it over to them, and then we will have it back.
Okay, so it hasn't gone to them yet. How soon do you think it'll be back from them? That may resolve the issue.
It will be back relatively soon, but if it's anything to do with the ADU piece, I think our current amendment version is to just have a provision that says if it's not addressed in the state law, then our previously requested piece goes into impact.
Okay.
Would you just clarify ADU, just so,
Oh, I'm sorry,
That- I
accessory
mean, we
dwelling
know-
unit. So I actually got another email from a resident today, because they had seen the materials about the ADU, so,
ADU is accessory dwelling
Dwelling.
unit? No, we've called them temporary accessory use of, like an in-law apartment, something
Yep.
along, but the state is coming out with new regulations, so
Right.
the new nomenclature is ADU.
yeah, and it goes into effect on sometime in February, like February 14th.
It
or
does, yep.
Mid-Feb. But they're waiting for state regulations to come out to see if there's any modifications. There's some towns that are requesting a rural municipality exception. So, we have a little bit of that language to go in there to kind of caveat and say, if it doesn't apply here, then, it comes into effect, but you don't want to touch it too much because you don't know what the rules and regs are going to come into.
Right, right.
So, we did lose Kirk. He's trying to click
Oh.
on
Okay,
hotspot, now he's
but the other
calling.
thing you need to be
Okay.
aware of too is that this is kind of like Chapter 40 housing. Whatever the state comes up with is going to just trump, or not bad word, usurp the power here of the local boards.
Yeah.
So we're really, really concerned about what they're going to come down with. The primary thing in terms of Heather bringing up this rural classification, or a new classification that they haven't thought of, Town of Paxton doesn't have sewers anywhere. So that will be the limiting factor in terms of if somebody has a piece of property with a home on it, and it's currently servicing a 3 or 4 bedroom septic system for that lot, and they want to do something that's detached from the original structure, the septic system would have to handle the additional bedroom.
Right.
And right now, that is the limiting factor, or that's, for us, it's the saving factor. Because the other thing that's coming out in this thing is you don't have to be a resident of the property under consideration. Up until this point, you always had, you know,
Right.
you and your husband could be there, and your daughter or son could come back and live at home, or your parents could move in, but
Yep.
you were there as the landowner.
Right.
That's changing now. You don't
Right.
have to have that. So
Okay.
we just want to make sure that we try to keep as much control inside the borders of Paxton that we can. So this rural designation will really help us,
Yeah.
if in fact it goes through.
Yeah, if we can get that. Okay.
Call your representatives and tell everybody we want that.
Can I just speak to the process?
Yeah.
Roberta Bryan, 311 Richards Ave. I'm Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I do think it's important, and I'm not sure if it happened at the beginning, that everyone understands the role, both of the committee that was selected to perform the task at hand of reviewing the bylaws and subdivision rules, and I would hope that the Select Board had an understanding of its role too. I only say that, I think we welcome your comments, and Neil makes a good point. It certainly can be done in advance of our first of many public hearings, and certainly welcome your participation at the public hearings as residents and even representing Select Board. But I think for future sort of voluntary commissions in particular, I think it's important that everyone understands where the strength lies in making these changes, right? It can't be a single board that makes changes that aren't vetted in a public arena and process. And it really has to be a conversation between the committee and the consultant that really did guide us on a lot of these things, using best practices of other communities and a lot of research into that. So it really has to be a a dialogue in public about concerns that the board has or concerns that you have as a resident, and then a response from the committee to defend or support, potential changes, as well as hopefully some feedback from the consultant before it gets to the Attorney General process, because I
Yes.
feel like I understand that to be sort of a one and done. One mistake, and they just stop reviewing, and it comes back, and that
Yeah.
certainly is not a good use of anyone's time. So I don't think I understood, and probably just didn't ask the question at the beginning when I was asked to sit on the committee. But if Heather has that background to understand how Select Board is going to integrate its comments, we should just stick to that. Because it's important that the committee feels, and there was a lot of us, that their work over all these months, is valued and listened to, and can't just kind of be dismissed because your board trumps our committee. So
No, I don't think it has
my-
anything to do with
No,
that.
that's what Julie was
Absolutely
saying.
not.
No.
So I just think for optics, I think it's important to have the discussions after your review, certainly, in our public meetings, to understand everyone's concerns all at the same time.
Yeah, so I think, from the town perspective, right, the chief policymaking committee, of course, is the Select Board. When it came to putting together the steering committee for the zoning bylaws, we had no input into that. That was chosen by Heather. How long have you been on the ZBA?
I don't want to answer that. I think I'm rivaling Neil.
Yeah.
I don't know, my kids were 2 and 3, so yeah, 18, 17 years.
18 years, yeah. And how long have you been on planning?
24.
So wealth and breadth of experience, right? Which is absolutely acknowledged and glad to have it, right? The flip side of that.
I have about 17, 18,
Right.
maybe 19 years.
Yep,
Perks of
of
former
zoning
long-term, right?
experience,
Yep.
right? Yep, thank you, Kirk, that's an important addition. The flip side of that, however, right, is that when we have a steering committee put together to try to change bylaws to make them more business-friendly, and the committee is comprised of individuals whose roles have been historically to enforce the bylaws or that we currently have in place, which are not as business-friendly as we would like, I think that potentially could be seen as problematic. So I think it's important, though I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the steering committee, if I had put it together, might have looked a little different. Not that I'm saying I would have excluded either you or Neil, but I might have added some additional members of the community to provide a different viewpoint. There was a member of economic development on the committee, right?
There have been 2.
Who served from economic development? Were they able to attend the meetings?
We had Savas and then we had Jeremy.
Okay, good.
They were involved early on until probably, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that, maybe a little
I would
bit
say,
longer.
May or June. I mean, Jeremy was active from January on, and he replaced Savas. So I also take slight exception to that. I am a small business owner working in this community, and I want to make sure that we're more business-friendly, particularly with things that have happened since COVID. A lot of people are
Yeah.
working from home now.
Right.
So we always had that, the optics were there on the table, making sure, how does this impact where we want to be?
Sure.
So I don't think at any time were we looking to limit business. As a
Good.
matter of fact, one of the proposed changes is increasing the business zoning in
Right.
town. So, that'll be something that, again, the residents have to review and understand, and then, vote their hearts, however they feel about it, good or bad.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure, for sure. And I don't mean to sound like I'm discounting anybody's role or participation or anything like that at all. I'm just trying to make sure that with something as important as a zoning bylaw review, a complete review of all of our zoning bylaws in town, that the entire process can be ironclad. That nobody will be able to come in later and say, well, that was an unbalanced committee, or the select board didn't have input, or whatever else, right? Or after the public, there's the other concern that I had was after the public information sessions, there was actually no time to make any changes before it has to go to, before it goes to town meeting, right? So what that says to me is that the public information sessions are just to get the information out, but they're not to obtain feedback, which I would think it should go both ways, right?
Well, that process can take place at the special town meeting. I mean, if there's somebody or a group that feels something has been omitted or negated, that they didn't like, I mean, we can discuss it at that special town meeting, and the vote of, those attendees will have the impact as to what's gonna happen. I mean, in view of everything that's taken place in this town over the last 5 months, people were concerned that, as Kirk always has his numbers, I don't remember where they are, but 2.33% of the people are watching a meeting or attending, whatever, and they are determining the future of, the 4,000 residents of the Paxton. The same type of process is about to take place here.
There was a 3.84 that
Thank you.
actually showed up in voting.
There you go. Thank you.
And if I can, and it's hard because I'm not there, but if I can offer a couple comments.
By all means, Kirk.
That would be great. I have no issue moving it forward as long as we get the red lines and have a chance to review as to not slow the process. Because I think it is an important process. It's been way overdue. I was there when we rewrote the last bylaws, and I remember how painful that was, and the amount of time that took. So that's my thoughts on that.
And just to kind of follow up on that, I wanted to commend Heather for putting the steering committee together, because the last time this full undertaking took place was approximately 20 years ago, and it was at the discretion or direction of just the planning board. They went through the subdivision rules and regs in the zoning with the help of Central Mass Regional at that time, and the planning board at that point had that process, and it was very, very long. This at least has moved along a lot quicker, and I really think we're ready to just kind of get this thing wrapped up and for the town, so.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, when I reviewed the red line document, I saw 90% of the things that I saw in there were fantastic. They were much better than what we had before, definitely making improvements. There's only a couple of things that I looked at that I was like, I'm not sure about this, and how come this is more restrictive now than it was before, or whatever. So, so those are the pieces that I wanted to clarify. Carol, any thoughts? Are you comfortable moving it to planning board?
I just want to know why we didn't get a copy when you did.
I specifically asked for it.
I have no issue. I personally have no issue directing it to the planning board to review, because I know we're in a time constraint, and I know we've got meetings coming up very shortly for the public information sessions. So the first one being soon, so I would think it'd be better that we move it along, but I do appreciate everything you said, and I agree with what you say, but I will move it along for the sake of getting it to the planning board and not delaying it by another 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I feel like the sooner we can get it before the town and review it ourselves, the better the product that we may get in the end, because we'll have time and they'll have time to work on whatever comments.
Yep.
I don't think we should be leaving the comments to any changes to the special town meeting.
No, I agree. I think there
I
should
think
be a
that's a bad-
period for
bad-
changes to
bad
be made
place to
before
do it.
that.
So
Absolutely.
You should go to special town meeting with a final product, so that, because the
No,
intent
we-
is to
and
move it
we
along.
will, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
there are always people stand up at the meeting and say, I don't understand why this is, so we
understand
try to
that.
explain it, and then
Yep.
there's another groundswell of activity of those attending saying, well, I'm kind of on that ship,
Yep.
so let's make an amendment right now, and that's when we get a couple things get changed. And then before, it has to go back to town council for review, and then if it's voted with the amendments, whatever they are, It then goes on to the Attorney General's office, and they have the final say as to what it's gonna look like. Or they may make a suggestion, all we have to do is incorporate their suggestions as an amendment, and then we're fine.
Right.
That's kind of what happened 18 or 20 years ago. There were 2 suggestions that were made, and we incorporated that, and it was done. I can't stress enough that we really want to get this wrapped up. There's 2 reasons. First of all, whatever growth may be coming in town with building, we need to make sure we have the regs in place to allow that to move forward. But the other thing is Heather was very successful in getting a grant to fund this, and the longer, I'll use the word procrastinate or just drag it out, it's going to be more costly to the town, because at this point, I think we have consumed 90-some-odd% of the grant, correct, Heather? I mean, there was money left for legal review by town council of that grant.
Yep.
And I think we're pretty close to budget, right?
Yeah, we ended up swapping out the legal review just to have CMRPC do a little bit more because we finished the year, so we had to send the final invoice to the state. So we're gonna have to end up eating the legal cost in this year's budget, but it should be, Brian guesstimated between 3 and 5K max.
Okay.
So it should be okay.
And the other thing along that is the planning board gets money back from Central Mass Regional as a member of that group. Every year we get money, and we've already allocated the 25 fiscal year money to this project. So, I mean, we're really getting down to the short straws here right now. So we're trying to wrap it up and keep everything as tight as we can financially. So again, with all the things going on in town with short money.
I get that.
Okay.
But I do think we need to make sure we have the right piece moving forward.
Okay.
So with that, I'll ask for a motion to formally refer the matter to the planning board so that we don't hold up the process, with the understanding that the other 2 select board members are going to receive the red line version of the bylaws so that they can review it. And then we will have. And Heather already sent it while we're talking.
Yes.
Excellent.
Of course you did.
So we will.
So I'll make a motion to,
Yep.
to move this, referral to the planning board.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, Kirk?
Aye.
Carol? Aye.
And I will vote aye as well.
Thank you.
So it's been formally referred.
Okay.
Neil, when's your next planning board meeting?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
I'm sorry,
night.
it's next Monday night
Next Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. So planning board, where are you meeting?
at the Bauer Center.
At the senior center, 7 PM.
Yep.
All right, so you heard it. Planning board will, I'm assuming this will be on the agenda.
Well, what we'll do at the next meeting, and I believe it is Monday night, we will hand out copies of the proposed documents to the members for
Yep.
them to review, because they haven't seen it either.
Yep.
So we're not being exclusionary just to the select board. I mean, the planning board members haven't seen it either, nor have any of the zoning members, correct, Roberta?
No.
Okay, anyway, so we will get it in their hands, and then Heather, the first public meeting was scheduled, I think, sometime around the
18th.
8th, thank you, okay, September.
I would think that you're
Wednesday
not,
the 18th.
you wouldn't be breaking open meeting law if Heather distributed that to your planning board members now. if you
No, she may,
wanted.
but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
as of, we're waiting for this to get here tonight, so,
Just
but,
trying to help you speed up the
understood,
process.
understood, so.
I think that would be advantageous to have it on your agenda and have your
Get going on
board
it.
members
Right, but
at
Cheryl's.
least
I-
have it in hand.
Right, I haven't seen the agenda, Cheryl's back tomorrow, so
okay.
Okay.
I know we talked about it,
Yeah.
but again, she hasn't posted anything.
Yeah,
I believe it's there, but I don't want to speak for her,
okay.
okay?
All right, very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil and Roberta
Yep.
And
Thank you for
Heather.
your work with this.
and Heather,
That's right.
of course.
Yep. All right. So next up, we have FY '26 to discuss the Finance Committee and Select Board joint working sessions. Heather, I will yield the floor to you to get us going on that.
Sure, so I just put this on here just as an item for quick look, quick discussion. I know this is something I don't think Mark's even approached FinCom yet on, but the idea was to possibly, if everyone was agreeable, before we got started with the budget season this year, it might be advantageous to sit down with Select Board and FinCom and try to do our first ever working session So it would be kind of a little bit of an informal session. What most towns do for a working session is, as always, it is open to the public, but the public is encouraged to provide the committee's opportunity to just kind of hash things out, taking good notes and reporting back later. If any public does show up, usually in these working sessions, no one's recognized if they're not a member of the board or committee or active staff helping, so they can get through things. This, again, is just on here, just to make sure we don't lose track of it, but also to let the public know that, we are trying to work together to see if we can't make this happen. And the hardest part, as Mark has experienced from putting FinCom meetings together over the years, is getting people to be available on the same day and time. So I'm still just working with 3 members to see if I can get more than one option, and then I will send them to Mark, and him and I will continue offline discussions to see what we can put together, and then a lot of involvement will go into putting together an agenda and some working items and so forth.
Okay, great. So that sounds fantastic. I like the thought process of having this working session. I'm a big fan of that. Mark, do you have any input since you're here?
No, I think I would connect a couple of dots. This was first broached to some representatives of the Finance Committee at a recent financial management team meeting. And since that time, the Finance Committee has not met officially, but we plan to put this in front of them with the idea of we want to obviously do our job and do our work and prepare the budget, but want to not only give the optic of working together with the Select Board, but in fact do want to do that. But I don't want to get ahead of the Finance Committee and want to give them the option to weigh in and agree to it and the dates and the times and the like. So it's been moved from home plate to first base, and we got a couple more bases to cover, but we'll take care of it in due time. Shortly, we hope to schedule a meeting, frankly, within the next 10 days or 2 weeks.
Excellent. Great.
So hopefully we could come back to the Select Board before it meets again.
Awesome. Sounds great. Okay, good. We're off and running, if you can believe it, already with FY26. Okay. Last item is to award the heating fuel bid for 2504 for FY25. And I believe there was 2 bids, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, so we received 2 bids back on August 28th. One was RJ McDonald that came in at $2.89, and the apparent lowest bidder was Peterson Oil at $2.83 per gallon. We've had some experience with Peterson Oil in the past, going back to 2018. It cost the town a bunch of money, ran into a number of problems with some of the performance and so forth. A lot of our area communities ran into similar issues that they reported in 2020. As a result of that, I would like to recommend that we disqualify Peterson's Oil Services from the bid and award the contract to the next lowest bidder, which is RJ McDonald at $2.89. I did send the Select Board a bidder disqualification information sheet detailing those pieces. And I do always have the backup as well, if anyone's interested in seeing it, from the correspondence and emails and backup details for both the town of Paxton and CMRPC communities back in 2020 that would support that decision.
Very good. And just to reiterate, the difference in cost between the two was 4 cents?
I think it's 5 cents.
5 cents per gallon? So not a big difference there either. Okay.
How does this compare with what we've got at the moment?
So right now we have RJ McDonald. I don't remember what we're paying per gallon at the moment. Do you, Donna?
3 something.
Yeah, I think Neil's right. I think it's 3 something.
I was gonna say 320, it's in the 320s.
Yeah,
So this is less than what we're currently paying.
so it's a reduction no matter what.
So yes. We do try,
What was it?
so generally speaking, we do try to use when we can. CMRPC does a group bid. Sometimes they come back with vendors or other things that aren't always necessarily what we believe are in the best interest of the town of Paxton. So, for instance, in this case, in talking to the various department heads, it was decided that we should go out to do our own bid. So that's why we submitted something ourselves instead of doing the group bid.
Yeah. Which makes sense here. Okay. Is there a motion to recommend approval or to approve the heating fuel bid or award the heating fuel bid for FY25?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve McDonald, the second bidder.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Kirk?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. All right, so that's been awarded to RJ McDonald. I have nothing under old business. Under Select Board correspondence, I have a couple of things. So two of our departments received some kudos recently, over the past week. One of them was the police department. Interestingly, they encountered, or I suppose unfortunately, they encountered a community member who was in distress on the overnight shift. The officer who was involved was able to get that person the help that they needed. Had they not been patrolling overnight, they would never have found this person. The outcome could have been very different. So big thank you to the police department for that. The officer who was on the overnight shift that night also displayed a great amount of empathy for the person who was in distress. And so we are very thankful. It was Officer Larkham that was involved. So thank you to Officer Larkham. And thank you to the community as well for supporting the overnight patrol to the extent that that occurred. If it hadn't, we would have been potentially in a very different position. The other kudos that came in was for the fire department for a quick response to a pedestrian accident. A letter came in from the patient's family saying thank you for saving our mom. So that was really sweet to see. Came with some sweet treats as well for that department. So thank you as well to the fire department. Another comment that I wanted to make was, unfortunately, we had the passing of Jim Putnam in town. He was a longstanding resident, member of our fire department, also a member of the Friends of the COA for many years. He will be greatly missed. His family, for I believe 4 generations now, has been very highly involved in the community. As you know, Mike Putnam was a DPW superintendent for many years. Both of his sons now are on the fire department, so it's a very highly involved family in the community. Mr. Putnam Sr. will be greatly missed. And the last thing I wanted to bring to attention is, you may have heard, there is increased risk of arbovirus activity here in the state of Massachusetts, meaning the EEE and West Nile virus from mosquitoes. As of right now, Paxton remains in the low-risk category for both of these. However, some of our neighboring communities have moved to moderate and high risk. Leicester and Worcester for EEE and West Nile virus, respectively. So just a reminder to citizens to observe the peak hours of mosquito activity at dawn and dusk. Make sure you're wearing insect repellent. Remove standing sources of water in your yards, et cetera. This is a message from my role on the Board of Health. Okay, so some of our neighboring communities have instituted curfews. I don't see that the town of Paxton needs to do that right now, where our risk level still remains low. But in the event that that risk level were to go up, then that's something we may need to discuss. I don't see that that's a need at this point in time. Okay, all right. So that's everything that I had on correspondence. Did you have anything, Carol, you'd like to?
Just check while we're a few minutes. Town of Paxton was designated a Purple Heart town June 15th, 2015.
It was 2015, okay.
And I looked on the purpleheart.org and we're there.
Excellent.
So thank you to the Legion for offering to put those signs up, because that'll make it complete.
Yep. Absolutely. Great, thank you. Kirk, anything from you?
Nothing for me at this time, thank you.
Great, okay.
Sorry, this is really hard on the telephone.
I apologize. All right. Town administrator's report is up next. Go ahead,
All right,
Heather.
thank you. Just some reminders on the calendar. So September 10th, Representative Ferguson and Senator Durant, office hours. So they send, I believe, Dan and Lizzie respectively. They'll be at Town Hall 2:30 to 3:30 tomorrow. On some other meetings coming up, September 10th, tomorrow, Light Commission meeting is at 5:30 at the Paxton Municipal Light Plant. Recreation meeting is the next day on Wednesday at 6 PM at the Council on Aging. On Thursday, the Economic Development Committee meeting is at 5 PM. That is a Zoom-only meeting. So if you're interested in that one, please Zoom in. 9/17 is the Open Space Recreation Planning Committee, their first meeting at 5 PM at the Council on Aging. September 18th, the Zoning Bylaw Information Session, 7 PM in this room, and also on Zoom. And September 19th, the Zoning Board of Appeals. Neil, yours was not posted yet, so it did not make it into my little calendar.
That's fine.
Employment opportunities, so we still have quite a few available here. We have 2 full-time firefighter paramedic options, 2 full-time police officer, a part-time public safety officer for AMC, after-school group leader, part-time technical service assistant, part-time assistant town clerk. In addition to that, we do have one more to add. Our treasurer collector is going to be departing us. Donna Kuchar has been with us for a number of years. We are very grateful for everything she has done in the finance department. She started as a town accountant, moved on to the town treasurer collector. She is taking a further role in Rutland as, I believe, a finance director. And she will be leaving us on October 3rd. We have posted the position. We are currently working to get a hold of some of the consulting companies out there to try to come up with a plan in the meantime. There's a good chance we will not have someone to be able to step in, play, and ready to go in 3 weeks. So we will need to be working with a outside company both to help us out in the meantime if we need it, as well as either provide transitional services to the next treasurer collector, or in the event we have to train someone who has the right skills, then coming up with a training plan for that. We should be able to do that all within the budget of that department's office, but I have alerted Mark in case we need any additional sources of funding from the reserve or anything else. So, any questions on that?
Too many. No.
Okay. Volunteer, town has a variety of open board, committee, commission positions still available on the web. Town business updates, building department, no changes there, just the availability and how to click on there. If anyone has any trouble, please always feel free to reach out to my office. I'm more than happy to connect people and make sure we get everyone in touch. Please do note Cheryl Lombardi, who's the town services coordinator, was out last week on vacation, will be back tomorrow. So I think right now she has a sign up that says check her email or send a voicemail, but I don't think there's a backup to go to me in the event she doesn't answer because she's on vacation. Council on Aging, I just tried to make note of this here. 2 weeks ago, Council on Aging did experience an unfortunate incident of vandalism. During this event, a town computer and several historically significant items belonging to the Historical Commission were taken. The town is actively working with our insurance provider to address the situation and ensure repairs are completed properly. We appreciate the community's understanding as we work through this. Treasurer Collector's Office, we just covered. Current project updates, the basketball hoops. I only laugh on this one because it seems to be one of the longest ever projects. Talking to Kathy, I think they tried this right before COVID started. We just recently got into a couple more issues last week when the installer was here to install them. They had originally looked at the hoops we were ordering, said we were good to go. We got the hoops, and the red baskets for the fire alarms are in the way of all 4 of the side hoops. So we worked with the facilities manager. I talked to Kathy again today. I think we have a workaround. We might be able to make some modifications. We have the funds to address the problem. We're just trying to address the problem as quickly as possible or find an alternative that does not involve sending the hoops back and trying again. So that's where we are on that. Town finances, so we've already covered the procurement piece. And then grants at the bottom of this, and online you can see it probably a lot better. I've had the department start to update. Right now you just have library and fire on here with all of the grant names, what's in it, the amount, and the status of where it's at. We'll keep updating this and building on it. It does just take a little while for people to add their information into it and for me to get everyone situated on how to use the form, so. But we're hoping to add to that. That's all I have. Any questions?
I have none.
No, ma'am.
All right, let's see.
Question, may I?
Yes, you may. It
Well,
is
okay,
public comment time. I just had to check and make sure that
No,
was the next
understood.
thing.
Heather, you mentioned the fire department grant. What was it? Because I want, kudos I think are coming. I've been away for the summer and missed some of this, but tell me what's on the sheet.
Well, I did have the fire chief update this the other day, so he's got a couple on here. The AFG one is on there for the SCBA for the 309 with
Okay,
Spencer.
right. That's an important one for this town. That's part of my business, so I fully understand whys and hows. And I wanted to commend the chief and the town for working with, I believe it was Spencer.
Spencer?
And they received a joint grant for a little over $600,000. But there's no expense to the town, I believe, other than the 5% match, and there was a way that they were gonna fund that, so there is no cost to the town.
No taxpayer cost,
Right,
right?
no tax, so I think that is just an awesome win for the town, and I wanna make sure that people are fully aware of what that does for this community, so. Congratulations to everybody involved.
Mentioned that last meeting, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Neil, I think, was still in New Hampshire, right?
Yep.
Yep.
I have one other comment too. I'm having trouble finding these meetings on Pax TV on the YouTube. What am I doing wrong?
On YouTube?
Yeah, isn't it, you go to YouTube and then you type in WPAX-TV.
You
and
need internet service.
You have to click the live. So we have a lot of things that we need to take a little bit more time in how we organize the pieces.
Okay.
But right now, the easiest way I find to find them is you go to the live button and you'll see them because they were streamed
Yep.
live, so they filter separately.
That's where they, all right, so I just can't go and then see.
Yep.
I mean, because there were meetings back to, I don't know, 2021, and there was a finance committee meeting back in June, and that's as far as it went, so you just got to click on live.
Yeah, I think,
All right.
I think we all could use some refreshers or rather initial learning on
And
how
have
to
we
use
changed-
YouTube.
Have we changed the town webpage where it's no longer video on demand? I mean, that should just say, go to YouTube or whatever, because,
I think it's still there,
all
actually.
right, because
Yeah.
while I was away, I was trying to just stay informed with what we, and I just got frustrated, couldn't find it.
Yeah. You're not the only one, Neil.
Okay.
I also had some trouble finding them when I went
Okay.
on to YouTube, so it's not just you.
All right,
It may also be that the title above every video has the same date.
Well, that's.
And you have to look below the seal to actually find the date of what it is. So they all
That's on-
say Joint Select Board and Finance Committee meeting Monday, July 29th. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, 6 of those.
are they all the same meeting, though,
Nope,
or is it just?
They're all different meetings.
Oh, all right, so,
Because on the
Okay.
bottom, they have the dates of the meeting, but on the top, it's like someone just,
Still says the same thing.
yeah.
Okay.
I will do my best to work through as many as I can.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that was you.
we retract that comment.
All right. It's fine.
That's okay, Roberta knows how to fix it, we're all good.
I don't.
All right. Well, hopefully these are growing pains. This is a process that we just recently started, so we'll get the hang of it eventually here, and hopefully it will be a wonderful thing for the town at some point. I think it already is. It's just working out the kinks, that's all. So, and then we'll move on to Facebook Live, too. Sure she wants to hear that. Okay. Any other public comment? Yeah.
Thank you. Roberta Bryan, 311 Richards Ave. Just a follow-up to our last meeting where we discussed the change of the select board from 3 to 5 and the process that will take. So I was just looking to see if there had been any updates or progress on that, and then wanted to ask a couple of questions about when that happens, how it happens, and timelines that you anticipate.
Yeah, so I did send you a note. I don't know if you
I did.
saw it.
Yep, thank you.
You did, okay, good. So my understanding is, bear with me, I gotta look at the note because I don't want to misspeak.
Your note referenced the process of a citizen's petition, but
Right.
in our meeting the last time, in your meeting the last time, you had described a process that you preferred, which had been in the goals for
Yep.
a little bit. And I just neglected to ask at that time, like, what does that look like? Who, and it's actually goes back to the beginning of our discussion about commissions and committees and who sets them. And I don't know anything about charter reform, so if there's a different process other than the one we just went through for zoning bylaw changes, I would be interested to know that.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty clearly laid out in the goal document that Heather put forward, that she would put together essentially a committee, similar to the steering committee that you had for zoning. And that they would then, the first thing she would work on doing for that committee would be a charge. So setting up, like, this is the intent of the committee, and this is what you're charged with doing. And then she'll lay out the process. I think there's a number of different ways that process can move forward, and it'll be up to us to decide how that proceeds. But it's in her court right now, so she's doing some research on how to put that together, and then it'll appear on a future agenda. That's about all the information I have right now.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll, when we discuss it further on the agenda, we'll have some more.
And am I correct in thinking that, how long have we had the charter we have now? Remember we talked the last time about something failed? Was
Yep.
that recently?
So this one, it was the acts of 2013, if I remember correctly, that put together the current charter. So that was, that went through and was approved in 2013 by the House and the Senate.
We had a charter prior to that?
We did, yep.
Not a formal legislation, though.
Yeah, I think that was a fairly more recent requirement, but.
And were you here at the time? Did you
I
do
was
the
just
same thing?
coming on board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just coming on board. So I started here in 2013 on the select board.
Okay.
And so I was on the select board at the time that it was finally approved. And so I remember the elation when they finally got it to
Yeah.
pass and go through.
Yeah.
But I wasn't involved in the writing of it.
Okay.
There was a committee that was set up to actually review it and put it forward. And it was finally approved November 1st, 2013 for the legislation. So it did have to go through legislation.
Were you here, Carol, as the?
I was the admin assistant at the time.
Okay.
But then I think by the time this went through, I believe
You were town administrator.
town administrator
Yeah.
then, yeah. But it happened prior to me being the town administrator.
Okay.
I didn't initiate it. It was initiated by the previous.
Okay. I'd just be curious if there was any way to duplicate a process, to not reinvent the wheel. If that worked back then, would be helpful to know if there's minutes or documentation on
There
that.
should be.
Yeah.
There should be minutes on all that. Yes, absolutely.
And I do want to state formally for the record, I have no intention of running for select board.
Why not?
That's important. Because I don't want anyone to think that I'm doing this to get a seat on the select board. I respect your positions. I do not think I could do what you do. I just, for the benefit of the town, really want to see how the people in the town feel about this move. So I think it's important to know, even though I'm asking a lot of questions about it, I have no desire or intention. I will not run for the position. If asked, if nominated, I will not take the.
I've already been taking notes, Roberta.
Nope. But I just.
Next nomination.
No, town caucus, get her name out there.
Right?
Oh,
I
God.
think that's important, though, for the process, to understand my intent, what my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah,
And my
yeah.
goal is simply what's best for the town. And if the town folk feel that 5 is best for the town, then let's try to get that
Absolutely.
passed. So I just think that's important for the public record, Heather.
Now,
I think-
remember, you don't have to be present at the caucus to be nominated.
No, you
so-
don't.
Be there.
And you have to be accepted, though. You have to accept it. But I think the Board of Selectmen also are here for the purpose of the town, and we want the town's best interest as well. So
Right.
I don't think we're going to hold anything up.
And after the last, I don't know, couple, 3 years, I think we all feel like I can only speak for myself, but I'm gonna say it again, that I think a 5-person board would just do a lot of good for the heavy lifting we have to do.
Thank you for the update.
Julie, can I speak to that, to that same point and maybe carry it a little bit further? I'd like to see that this actually be an agenda item on the select board every 2 weeks that it meets, or alternatively, part of the town administrator's reports, so it's not always relegated to, public policy. And you made a point that it's listed in the town administrator's goals and objectives for this year. But it speaks to the point of a review committee. But Mass General Law and the Division of Local Services and the DOR and all the slight research that groups have done, it speaks of a special act, it speaks of alternative procedures, it speaks of a charter commission versus a committee, it speaks of the town moderator making the appointment of those members based on something that could take place at town meeting. There's just a lot of questions, and I have, frankly, may have just misspoke with some of the things that I've thrown out there as well, but that speaks to the point that to give it some structure so that we all know what we're doing, what the goal is, what the timetable is, so that in November, perhaps it's talked about, or in next May's annual town meeting, as opposed to we're working on it, we're thinking about it, we're talking about it, that there's actually some movement 10 yards at a time, down the field. And I'd weigh in, and I had the privilege of running for select board, but I'm not doing this for that particular reason as well.
It's like a hot
I'm just a
potato.
big advocate that I think it needs to be 5 members for 2 reasons. There's a lot of work to be done. And number 2, I'd like it if the 2 of you or some of you could talk to each other before the meeting to get some input, to know what the other members thinking. Because if you do it now, you're in violation of the open meeting law, but if it's a 5-member, that opens up a whole other possibility of better dialogue and better information, better meetings, and more being done. It's all well-intended, but I think that there's an urgency. There's 3 of us here this evening that probably represent over 100 people, because there's little pockets in town that have been talking about it. And I think we spoke about the Finance Committee working together with the Select Board. I think we all need to work together on this, and if it takes 24 months, so be it. But at least we didn't pick it up on the 23rd month. We've worked on it every month until we got to the 24th month.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, sorry, Kirk, go ahead.
And speaking to that, I mean, one of the biggest advantages is that any new person that comes onto the board in the future, a 3-person board, they don't have the opportunity to have a mentor to backfill information from the years of experience that people on the board have had before. There's no reaching out for guidance. Never seen this before, never dealt with this kind of board before. We're not going to always have a selectman that is well-versed in politics in general, for that matter. Case being me. So it was a really difficult onboarding process. It took a couple of years of swimming in oatmeal because I couldn't reach out really and have a conversation with someone else. I didn't have a mentor on the board. And that's why I'm such an advocate for it.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I believe we put it, again, back in Heather's court.
Right.
She's going to be doing some research on it, and we'd like to give her some time to do that so that she can feel prepared. And then the idea is when she's ready, then we'll put it back on the select board agenda for discussion. Okay? All righty. Any further public comment? Hearing none.
Can I just have a quick
Yeah,
word?
absolutely.
Going back to the treasure collector, Donna Kutcher, I just want to personally thank Donna for over 16 years of serving the town of Paxton. Firstly, as the town accountant, and then she went into the role of treasurer collector, which helped me immensely because it meant I could have a brand new town accountant that she mentored. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if it hadn't been for Donna.
Right.
So it really upsets me that she's leaving. I really appreciate everything she's done, and I wish her luck because this is an awesome opportunity she's got, and it's what she's wanted for a while. But she's also kept with the town of Paxton for a long time, long past she needed to because she's had offers for many years. But I just want to give a big thank you to her. I really do. I wish her well. And I do know that when Heather mentioned getting a company in, which is going to be very costly, maybe you should reach out to Donna and see if she can still help out a little bit. I don't know. It might be better than getting a company in. I don't know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Donna sent me a nice note letting me know that she would be, as I'm sure she did with the other members, letting me know that she would be leaving the town, but that she had an amazing opportunity that was presented to her, which is sounds like a fantastic job for her. In addition, provides her with some additional time to be able to spend with her grandbabies, which, the time is priceless with family. So kudos to her. Wish her well on her new pursuit. And thank you so much for the amount of time that she has dedicated to the town, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, let me just get back to the agenda, which keeps disappearing on me. All right. I have nothing further. No further public comment. Heather, you're all set. Kirk, you're all set.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Kirk?
Aye.
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.